Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this wonderful third round of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Great Britain. This time it comes to you from Snetterton as we are quickly getting ourselves towards the very back end of the championship. Now, my name is Connery Maddock. I'm joined by the ever wonderful Paul Smith for this one, as we'll see two classes of cars take to the track in just a couple of moments time. But it's great to be back. It's great to be here, Paul, and it's great to potentially start to see where we're going to be at in terms of championship coming into that very final round of the season. It's a very, very short championship here, only 4 rounds of it, so there's no waiting around in the middle part of the season to see where things go. We pretty much get a relatively clear idea at this stage.
But it also means, with it being a short season as well, that one little mistake, one error can cost you dearly in terms of fighting for a championship. So yeah, definitely these drivers will be pushing hard, and will be pushing hard and fast. Might see a few thrills and spills along the way here at Snetterton.
Yeah, let's just take a small recap of what your format is going to be like here for this evening of racing. We'll be jumping into lone qualifying in a couple of moments' time, in about, well, 3.5 minutes' time to be exact. Then we'll have our race 1, which will be a 30 minutes long. Race 2, exactly the same, 30 minutes long as well. Both classes will be operating with a fixed setup here, so the cars are going to be equal across the board. And of course, we will have standing starts as well, which standing starts in multi-class is quite an intriguing prospect. And we've obviously had him over the last couple of events. But we've got, speaking of the classes, we've got the Pro class, which are the Porsche GT3 Cup, the 992 variants, of course. And then in the AM category, we have the Porsche Cayman GT4 Club Sports. So that's the situation there. In terms of the prizes, the top 3 drivers from each class win a half-day driving experience at the Porsche Experience Centre Silverstone. I have had the fortunate experience of being on one of those experiences. I would highly recommend, and whoever wins this is going to have a fantastic day out. The Pro drivers will participate in the Porsche 911 experience, and the AM drivers will participate in the Porsche Cayman experience. So they basically, Paul, get to drive the car they drove in the sim to get the top placings in their championship, but in real life.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a tremendous experience, and the good people at Porsche UK will definitely look after you well if you do end up winning those prizes. And certainly it's a good day out there at the Porsche Experience Centre. I didn't get to drive, you did, but yeah. I got driven around. I got chauffeured around the track and the facility that they got there.
Yeah, absolutely, and I shared my driving experience with my partner as well, so we both went out there. But yeah, it is a fantastic day out. You get the handling circuit, the Alpine circuit, the skid pan. It's all good fun. And if you ever wanted to drift the 911, I guess go to the Porsche Experience, because they will let you drift through 911. Anyway, heading on towards the schedule then. We've already had 2 rounds of the season completed, Silverstone and Donington Park. We're here at Snetterton for round number 3, of course, before we head to our grand finale at Brands Hatch in just 1 week's time. Without further ado, though, we'll move on to the standings. Let's see how they're doing, because in the Pro class, it's been a very dominant performance so far from Will Eatwell. 100 points. Only driver in triple digits in the Pro class. We got Jack Southfield in 2nd place, Samuel Jordan in 3rd, with Seb Hawkins in 4th, and then Dan Sedgley will round out the top 5 there. Over in AM, though, it's Adam Holloway that leads the way with 82 points over Oliver Ettridge in 2nd place. You've got Johnny Elliott there in 3rd place, with George Cullinan and Dan Blake rounding out the top 5. So things potentially for the top position a little bit tighter for that AM category, but a decent fight from 2nd on back in the Pro class as well to be looking forward to, Paul.
Yeah, certainly things are heating up nicely in terms of the championships, and don't forget it's the top 3 from each category who get those prizes. So even if you're not going to be winning the championship, you want to get yourself into that top 3 and get yourself the chance to do that experience centre. But Snetterton, it's not always the driver's favourite version of this circuit. Is the 300 layout that we're going to be racing around. There are overtaking opportunities though here, but it is quite a narrow circuit, so you're going to have a little bit of cooperation amongst yourselves and amongst your fellow drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see how things go, of course. We'll be jumping in towards qualifying here imminently, and in fact, the timer has indeed started, so we'll be seeing cars out on circuit here in just a couple of moments' time. But, of course, the qualifying, so important in series like this. Yes, you're lined up based on your class, and it's relatively small fields, all things considered, but you still want to be getting off to a good start, and it sets you up for the rest of the events as well. Given that we don't have a reverse grid for Race 2 here in this particular series, the Race 2 grid is just based on the results of Race 1. So getting that Race 1 done and in good order is definitely the way to go here if you want to score the big points.
And that's it. You know, if you can have a good run here, and to get yourself in qualifying into a great position up near the front of your respective field, then you are putting yourself in good stead from a very early start of the day. And if you can then carry that on into the final race of the day, well, I mean, there's nothing better really than having a good day start off in qualifying. So qualifying will be important for these drivers. It will be crucial for them to be able to get their laps in, but crucially for them, they only get 2 flying laps, so 2 attempts to try and set themselves their qualifying times.
Yeah, and that's not much in the grand scheme of things. You have a lot of time to do it, so you're not really at risk of running out of time. That sort of 10-minute time limit is really if you just want to sit at the start of the session, wait and see everyone's times, and then go out there yourself towards the end. But these guys should be under no risk of falling foul of that. So you got Johnny Elliott out there just getting his outlap all sorted, making sure those tyres are in the right operating range in terms of their temperatures and pressures before you go and attack these laps here. And I think you do have to attack the first flying lap there, Paul, for that very reason that you only get 2 of them, and you want to kind of keep one as a backup, right?
Well, and also with it being quite a long lap here for these cars, I mean the lap times you're looking at for the Cup cars around about the 1:49 range. For the Caymans, you're talking around a 1:53, 1:50, you know, something like that. It's quite a long lap, and you're putting a lot of load through the tyres through a lot of corners here. You know, we're talking a 13-corner track, and in fact we're on board with Seb Hawkins starting his lap then. So down towards Riches, the first corner, swing it in. It's quite a fast, open corner here. And then along towards Montreal, the hard braking, it's Wilson, got renamed, of course, after the great Justin Wilson. Oh, not a clean exit out of the hairpin. Now going to be heading into Palmer, this left-hander. And you can carry the speed through here, through this left-hander, up over the curb, that's fine. Motorsport UK might have something to say about that in the future for track limits, but then you're heading into Agostini then, this tight hairpin. This is one of your overtaking opportunities. Onto the power again before you head into Hamilton. It's not as quick a left-hander as you think it would be. Quite tricky, but you need to get the car over to the left then for Oggy's. Quite a tight right-hander, and it's important to carry the speed out of there and then through Williams, this right-hander, onto the Bentley straight, because you're carrying that speed all the way down here. Allow the car to just wander across the track over to driver's right, and then we're heading into Brundle and Nelson underneath the bridge. Tricky because you're braking and turning at the same time. Keep the car to the left to open up the right. It's important to carry the speed out of there into the bomb hole. The right-hander, tricky, dips down, back on the power, and then into Coram, the penultimate corner. An ever-decreasing radius here, letting it run out wide to try and get nice and tight. So you open up the final corner, Murray's onto the loud pedal and across the line to finish his lap. I don't think this is quite going to be Will Eatwell's lap.
Yeah, I don't think so either. It's a 1:49.7 to beat a 1:51.5 for Seb Hawkins there. Definitely not what we would have wanted at this stage, but thanks to the format, he will get another chance at getting a qualifying lap in, and, well, he has to do it pretty much immediately, because if he takes a tow back to pit lane at this point, he won't get that fast lap in. So has to continue on with it. Meanwhile, down in the AM category, we got Lewis Clark taking the provisional pole position there. So great job for the driver in number 22. We see Kieran Sharp go up to second place there in the pro category in the early goings here in qualifying. We're still yet to see lap times from Ollie Etheridge. We're still yet to see a lap time from Graham Brown here in this AM category. In the pro category, we're still yet to see one from Samuel Jordan or Thor Tuller either. And Daniel Sedgley also still down on towards the pit lane here at the moment as well. So still things can change in qualifying. Vast majority of the drivers are on their second lap of 2 now for that last chance to get themselves their spot on the starting grid.
Yeah, certainly this is their last opportunity. Eatwell just now. Samuel Jordan getting a lap time in there. Nice job from Samuel to beat Will Eatwell's lap time. So great job to get onto provisional pole position. And right as we say that, what a lap time Will Eatwell's pulled in. Nearly half a second quicker than Samuel Jordan's time. My goodness, that is some gap right there. But time is running out for those drivers who haven't set themselves a lap time out there, and there is 1 or 2 that are looking that they won't even be setting a lap time at this rate. But Oliver Etheridge then heading himself onto the Bentley straight once again and get the power down in this GT4 spec car. Still a really good race car to use, and it's a bit more user-friendly, shall we say, than the 992 Cup car. The Cup car is very much a wild horse and will bite you if you're not careful with it. But the GT4 car just a little bit more user-friendly as Kieran Sharp moves ahead of Sam Jordan.
Yeah, but it's still a massive rift between Will Eatwell and the rest of the field. Meanwhile, still things undecided here down in the AM category. Etheridge still yet to come across the line. He's just about to do so. There's the pit entry. There's the starting grid. It's going to be a 154.2 to beat. It's a 154.2 and a low one at that as well. So that should be good enough for pole position. It is. Ollie Etheridge on to pole in the number 57. I don't think there's much anyone else can do about that at this stage.
No, just looking, John Ely has gone into the pit, so too has John Higgins Jr. So those 2 are done. Thor Tuller has been having a bit of a nightmare out there, hasn't got a lap time in. Daniel Sedgley, well, he's not out there, he's not even in the session right now. So yeah, it's a couple of drivers not getting the times in here. It's Graham Brown is going to be finishing his lap.
Yeah. So here comes Brown. This is the second lap of 2 here. Does he make an improvement to 155.5 they did previously? And he also 155.5. That was that identical lap times there from Graham Brown? Because I swear it might have been 155.507. I'm just double checking that there. No, it wasn't. But it was very close though. It's within a 1/10 of a second with his previous.
Incredible consistency.
Yes.
Is what I would say from Graham there. Not that he would be wanting to see that. I think he'd be wanting to see a bit more improvement on that. But there's only one driver out on track, Ollie Etheridge. He's set his lap times. He's just getting a bit of last-minute practice. Well, actually, I say that. His lap count, this is his final lap. Yeah, so he has got 1 lap to go here.
Yeah, he does. So kind of surprised this year at the end. Just trying to hide what he's capable of, I guess, with those many outlaps. So I guess he was close to finishing an outlap and then took the tow back to the pit lane just to wind himself up for these 2 fast laps. Not that this lap time will matter. No one can beat him here in the qualifying order. And, well, he just goes ahead and beats himself, I suppose. There we go, 154 flat. Now 0.2 of a second ahead of Lewis Clark, making it convincing, I suppose.
To be fair, it's also a little bit of here's what I can do chaps. You go and it's putting a marker out for the race is that. But of course, qualifying is one thing. Then getting out with the elbows out in the race and be able to do it with a standing start as well. These aren't always, the GT4s aren't always the best off a standing start. The Cup cars, we do see them do standing starts, so be interesting to see how that goes. But we'll have to see how this race goes in the opening race.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be getting ourselves our starting grid up there right about now. So there's Will Eatwell on pole position, Kieran Sharp sharing the front row there in the Pro class. We've also got Samuel Jordan in P3, Nathan Foster in P4, Jack Southfield in P5 with Ryan Elliott rounding out the top 6. Then we got Sebastian Hawkins there in 7th place with Andrew Pike in 8th. Dave Martin will start in 9th with Thor Tuller in P10. Daniel Sedgley will round out the Pro category on the starting grid in 11th. And then we have a little bit of a look down to our AM category. It's Oliver Ettridge with pole position in quite a convincing fashion as well. Good 2/10 ahead of Lewis Clark there in P2. Then you got Gianluca Elia in P3 with Steve Roberts P4, John Higgins in P5 with Adam Locke in P6. Then at the back of the AM category, you have James Foster and Graham Brown. So drivers already getting themselves rather rapidly towards the starting grid here. We're going to be starting this event here at Snetterton in a very imminent fashion. In fact, those engine notes are already rising. Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Great Britain here at Snetterton is underway, and it's an awful start there. Awful start from Kieran Sharp. He's going to get swamped by the field here as Will Eatwell stretches his legs down in towards turn number 1. But Sharp is now down to 7th place. So after a fantastic qualifying, it all goes awry basically before the first corner. Meanwhile, battle for the podium positions in Pro. Samuel Jordan, Nathan Elliott, Nathan Foster and Ryan Elliott all battling it out. Seb Hawkins getting himself involved as well. We've had a big incident towards the back.
Yeah, yellow flags. A lot of your GT4s, your AM class have been involved in that one. Johnny Elia, one of those who's at the back of the field now after contact. But yeah, it's been a bit of a feisty start here as this one. But oh my goodness, talk about getting left at the start there for Southfield. Well, it's all about just keeping your head now, forgetting that happened, and just start working your way forward again.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, getting the car started off the grids is one of the skills that you really have to master, and it can end in tears like that. Meanwhile, Ryan Elliott, Seb Hawkins are deciding to do battle here down the straight. There's a little bit of an overlap between the two of them here, so we'll see how this works itself out.
Oh, in the background.
Brundle.
Big accident in the background there. I think it was James Foster ends up in the barrier. That's on the exit of Williams onto the Bentley Straight.
Yeah, we'll have a look at exactly what happens here in just a couple of moments' time. We'll have a look at the start. It was Sharp actually getting a bad start, although Southfield also spun the wheels up at the very back of the field there. So two of your pro drivers having very, very poor starts. And in fact, you know, we've also got, Thor Tuller starting at the, towards the very back of the grid. He actually files in behind the vast majority of the
Elia. Johnny Elia, who gets caught up at the hairpin there. We don't quite see it on that shot, but yeah, he's spun around. I think it was a little bit of a move, a little bit of an attempt down into the hairpin, and yeah, just late braking, losing control, bang, bang, bang. Thank you very much. The fireworks are meant to be in the sky, guys, not here on the track.
Yeah, that is unfortunate there. We'll cycle things forward because this is what happened to James Foster. Solo car incident off the edge of the corner. Dipping two tyres in the grass. Yes, it's a little bit better in recent times, the grass dynamics with iRacing, but you still don't want to be climbing all over it.
Oh, no, absolutely not. You want to just keep it nice and clean. James Foster, indeed, has actually been down pit road and got his fast repair used. Luckily, these drivers in this series, they do get one free repair, which for anyone who's not really watched sim racing before is wondering. Basically, it means that you could come onto pit road, stop, and your car is instantly repaired, but you only get one shot at that. If you have another accident after that, well, you have to sit on pit road and get repairs done to your car. So fortunately for James, he's able to use that quick repair and gets back out onto track.
If you're a fan of or work as part of Carl Esports, this is what you want to see at the front of the field at the moment. 1-2. Then the number 54 and the 19, Equal and Jordan just cycling their way around here for the moment. We'll have a little bit of a chance to look further down in the field as they're a little bit more bunched up back here. We've got Ryan Elliott, Kieran Sharp heading their way across the line here right now. The closest battles seem to be, however, in your AM category as we look down towards where they're at. Here's the battle for P3 in that category. Graham Brown versus Lewis Clark is what you're seeing on the way down in towards turn number 1, but a little bit stretched out. Meanwhile, side by side, further behind though, Steve Roberts and Adam Locke doing battle into 1, and Roberts going to come out on top in that one.
I think there's a little bit of panel damage on a few of these cars after that incident at Wilson on lap 1, and so a couple of the cars may be down a little bit, just a couple of clicks on top speed. That means that they will be struggling to a degree to hold on to positions. It's quite a technical opening to the lap here. And you go through the hairpin at Montreal, go through Palmer, Agostini, Hamilton, Oggies and Williams. And then you get back to the old circuit, and quite frankly, the better part of the circuit, if you ask me. Down the Bentley Straight into Brundle, Nelson, Bombhole, Coram and Murray's. Such a nice flow through that section. I just feel this opening, personally, this is just a personal thing, that opening sector on this 300 layout just ruins the flow of the track for me.
It is a tale of two halves of the circuit, isn't it? It's... I definitely agree with you. It's a bit sterile, the first bit of this of this particular layout. But you just sort of spending the first half of the lap just waiting for the second half of the lap because you know it's just that little bit more enjoyable, right?
And of course that second half of the lap is what the traditional circuit was here as well at Snetterton. I mean, I've been watching motorsport for decades now, probably 3 decades actually. I feel old now. And this circuit has produced some fantastic racing over the years as well. And even on this 300 layout with the Porsche Carrera Cup Great Britain and also the GT4s with the Sprint Challenge as well. Have some really good racing around here, so it does give opportunities, like into this hairpin here at Agostini. That's an overtaking opportunity that you've got there. Ryan Elliott's just not quite close enough to Seb Hawkins to make that, but he's got back onto the tail of Seb as Ryan, and he's putting the pressure on.
He has, so definitely keeping himself in his wing mirrors, which is all you need to do to at least add a little bit of pressure. They swing their way in towards Williams now, looking to try and get that drive off the corner, which will benefit you all the way down the Bentley Straight. But Elliott not in a position at the moment to really be a big threat into the back end of the lap here in that final sector of Brundle, Nelson, Bombhole, etc. So we always love cars going side by side through here. It might be a bit sketchy, you might tense up a little bit if we see a wheel-to-wheel battle in towards Brundle, but you know, if it continues on any further, that is going to be a pretty fun one to watch.
Never ends well going side by side through Brundle and Nelson. That's just from my personal experience of racing around here. A little bit of a wiggle for Ryan out of the final corner at Murray's, and that just compromises him all the way down the centre straight here. And really, it's little mistakes like that can cost you the opportunity to be able to make a move later on into this Wilson hairpin. It was originally called Montreal because it was kind of a little bit based on the hairpin at the Circuit de Villeneuve, is that hairpin, but of course renamed after Justin Wilson. So circuit with some great motorsport names all the way around here. But I was also glad that they kept some of the traditional names as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's certainly a a part that both can play here, as long as you're not changing the corner names constantly, like a certain circuit that I can think of, with one corner in particular. But yeah, it's great to pay tribute to great past and present, and to keep the heritage of the old corner names as well. It's all great to see as this battle continues on here. Seb Hawkins and Ryan Elliott, they're keeping each other honest, is what I'll say here. They are the closest battle out on circuit for the moment. Kieran Sharp is actually kind of catching on to the back of these guys at the moment. Gained about 0.2 of a second on them that last lap. So after that poor start, Sharp is on a bit of a recovery drive at the moment here, but of course he would prefer not to be in this situation. It's just the situation he finds himself in after completely bogging down off of the line.
Yeah, it's what we would call in the trade suboptimal start. Well, Sharp, he's got to get it. Like I say, when you get a bad start like that, when you bog down, when you spin up the wheels, and you basically just get a Porsche showroom come flying past you whilst you feel like you're just at an absolute standstill, you can't let it get to you. You can't overthink it and let it bug you and then affect the rest of your race. You've just got to be right. Okay, it happened. I know I've got the pace. Let's apply it to the race. And right now, he has caught up to the back of Ryan Elliott. Elliott's putting the pressure on Seb Hawkins as well in front. So this is a nice little 3-car train. And Sharp just looking for any... Look at the steering input is just nice and smooth. No sort of wrenching at the wheel or anything like that. It's all looks nicely under control, Kieran.
Yeah, does look pretty nice. You know, just trying to make the best out of a bad situation, as there's potentially a little bit of overcommitment to the corner there from Elliott, almost running into the back of Hawkins directly ahead. Maybe that's something that Sharp could capitalise on. Again, using the most of the track limits as you can coming out of there, because every single little bit of momentum down the Banfield Straight matters. But all single file down in towards Brundle here once again. It's fantastic corner, that Brundle. You just sort of commit to it, you flip the car into the left, remembering that you still have to keep it under control and get it slowed down for the right-hander of Nelson, basically directly afterwards. It's a great little skill check, I suppose.
Yeah, and Elliott actually just fell off the back of Hawkins a little bit, so maybe feeling the pressure of Kieran right now as out of the final corner, using the slipstream, just not able to apply that power the way that he would have wanted to have delivered that. He's going to end up carrying on through Richards once again. And yeah, Sharp, we are getting word that his tyres are dead. I mean, after, what, 12 minutes, 11 and a half minutes of racing, I mean, a boot full of wheel spin at the start of the race will induce a bit of heat into those tyres. Oh, big twitch there for Ryan Elliott. This is an opportunity now for Kieran to the outside.
Yeah, absolutely. Big commitment around the outside there at Agostini. Gonna have to try and get the drive off the corner, as Elliott having trouble with that as well. Swinging their way in towards Hamilton now, as Sharp just has to back out of things. Elliott had that inside line, which is pretty much always going to work through there as they follow their way through Oggies now. Is there going to be another opportunity on the horizon here for Sharp? He definitely has the clear air pace here over Elliott, and Elliott's couple of errors over the past couple of laps hasn't really helped the situation. It's actually allowed Seb Hawkins to gain about 1.9 seconds gap over the both of them.
And Andrew Pike is looking on with interest in this little duel now between these two. And again, Elliott with the big step out. Got to be careful. You don't want to be sliding the car too much, because that'll just put a load more heat through your tyres. And here on iRacing, the last thing you want to be doing is putting excess heat into your tyres, because once you lose that grip, you just never really get it back. And I think that's what Elliott is currently suffering with now, and he's having to try and fight it. But every time you just put a slide in, or just get a little bit of wheel slip on a corner exit with getting on the power a little bit too abruptly, that just builds that heat up even more and makes the feeling even worse.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle, isn't it? It's you might get a situation where you go into a spin, or like you said, you get a poor start and you spin up the tyres. The tyres are hot, so therefore they're going to be a little bit more slidey, which makes them hotter. So it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse, and it's a very, very big challenge to try and get them back into an appropriate operating range, as we see one of the lapped cars, I think that's James Foster, yeah it is, getting out of the way there, which is always good to see. But yeah, it's always a tricky situation once you've had that first slide, once you've had that first spin, you're really up against it for, well, in events like this, the rest of the race, because you don't get an opportunity for a tyre change.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just having a look at the timing. Andrew Pike with that last lap, with the two of them going side by side through Agostini and into Hamilton, actually was a second quicker as Pike than these two in front. So Elliott and Sharp, if they start fighting again, then Pike will very much be jumping onto the back of this one. And Elliott does look a little bit like a cork in the bottle. Doing a good job though, he's defending in the right places. He's not defending fresh air. You see some drivers who maybe haven't got the experience, they'll just defend into every corner when they don't really need to. Whereas Ryan, he's seeing where the opportunities are. He's seeing where Kieran is putting him under pressure, and he's just placing his car in a defensive position at the right time.
Yeah, it is absolutely great to see. But you are right, though. You do sometimes see drivers, when the threat's not there, still run a defensive line. It always weirds me out somewhat. It's just like, yeah, they're not close enough to go for a move. Why are you defending the inside? Yes, there might be a lunge, but a lunge from that far back might end up in catastrophe. So it's it's an interesting one. The whole mentality of this sort of stuff is always quite intriguing.
Yeah, it's almost psychological warfare out there for drivers when you're going up against each other. I mean, when I used to play rugby, it was very much a case of you were trying to get one over your opponent, and you're trying to show that you weren't hurting from the tackle that they just put on you, because you took a big hit, you get the wind taken out of you, but you've got to get up and be said, nah, didn't hurt me that, mate. Whereas in your back of your mind, you're going, oh my goodness, I'm in pain. And it's almost a little bit the same. You've got to show that you're not under pressure, as there's another slide again from Ryan Elliott. But you've got to show to the other driver that I'm not under pressure, even though realistically you are. Oh, there's a look. You're not really going to make the move at the Coram.
Yeah, speaking of pressure, that was a huge look, but in the end there was really no sting in it, because again, it's not really an opportunity that you can go for. But out of the final corner, across the starting grid and the finish line once again, still Kieran Sharp is not quite close enough to make this move down in towards turn 1. Not that you want to be normally making a move down into there anyway. You're kind of better off waiting for Wilson happen instead, as they're still not close enough there. And again, I'm sort of keeping an eye on the... Oh, what's happened to Andrew Pike there? Awkward moment on the outside of Wilson.
Has he just carried a little bit too much speed there, or got offline and got it all into the dirty part of the track? Well, here we go. Here we go. This will tell us. So he's carried too much speed into the hairpin, and the back end goes round. And with this being a rear-engine car, it acts like a pendulum. As soon as the back end breaks away, you've all on to actually hold on to that.
Yep, and that ends up in a free position for both Dave Martin and Jack Southfield. So they'll be very thankful for that. But you are right, Paul. It's very tricky to save these cars once you get that back end coming around. Really does take a good bit of wheel work and footwork to try and make sure that you're not going to end up pointing in the wrong direction. But we have to remind everyone that this is the closest battle that we see on circuit at the moment. Southfield and Pike is getting close as Pike tries to recover from that little spin. And of course, we have second potentially in AM category as well.
Yeah, AM category is getting a little bit closer. It's not quite on, but certainly the pressure is being put on by Lewis Clark on John Higgins Jr. And again, enough of fight in our you know, we spent more time looking at the GT4s in the opening round, didn't we?
Yeah.
At Silverstone, it was tremendous fighting that we had there. This time it's a little bit the opposite, isn't it? We've been looking more in the pros, but the AMs certainly, they've still got some good racing going on here. And again, it's whether you can withstand pressure, whether you can deal with that psychological game that the others are putting over you.
Oh, they get inside. Ideally, get inside the other drivers' heads, right? It's not easy to do sometimes. So obviously, there are drivers that are more sort of psychologically strong, and they won't fall for all the tricks in the book that you can throw at them. But some of them do actually get potentially a little scared, sort of try and second guess themselves, and get inside their own head that way. It potentially matters a little bit more in races where you have a bit more strategy with regards to pit stops and things like that to try and get your opponents to do something that they potentially weren't planning to do, but they do just in case, quote unquote. But yeah, it's all part of motorsport, all part of sim racing, and it's what separates the great drivers from the good drivers.
Yeah, certainly. As this race continues on, interesting to see that it's Kieran Sharp's teammate who is doing the hard work in second place in AM. So certainly the TSRC outfit, we're hoping to get good result here today. But still, that pressure is on from Kieran Sharp. We know he's got the pace from the qualifying. And he seems a lot closer than he has been on previous laps now. Can he use the slipstream? Down the centre straight, in towards Riches. It's not really an overtaking spot, although down the inside, carries too much speed. Ryan Elliott says, I'll have that back, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a move, certainly a move, but a bit of overcommitment there from the 23, and now it does bring Dave Martin back into things, as he was... well, he was at one stage sort of catching up on these guys, but that kind of fell by the wayside a little bit in the last couple of moments. But now it's really back on, and a couple more moves like that, potentially eyes too big for his stomach, then Martin might be able to pick up a position or two here, depending on how things turn out. We've got just shy of 9 minutes left in the session, so plenty of time for these guys to try and sort out their differences. Speaking of, we got a battle for P2 in the AM category. John Higgins versus Lewis Clark on the way down in towards Riches here at the very start of the lap. Clark on the inside, Higgins up and under, trying to get himself through, and he has. Well done. There down in towards turn number 1, and Clark now has to be looking behind because all of a sudden, kind of like that battle in the Cup category, a little fight, a little scrap brings other cars into it, and now Graham Brown, Steve Roberts also on the outside of this one looking in.
I'm questioning whether John should keep a hold of that second place. You know, he did try and do the little duck under after Clark had gone down the inside into Riches, like we'd seen in the pro category just a lap prior, and yeah, just got into the back of him, which maybe pushed him a bit further wide. I do think that maybe Clark was going to be going wide. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be a steward on that one, to be honest. That's quite a tricky one to decide if it does end up in front of the stewards.
Absolutely. We could potentially have another little look at it. So what we'll do is we'll just cycle things back. Here we go. Here's the battle in towards turn 1 then. Higgins and Clark. So there we go. Clark overcut. Oh yeah, I didn't immediately see that on my particular view of things, and yeah, it is quite obvious from the recap of it there. We'll have a look at from up above as well. I think this one is less well done and more maybe a visit to the steward's office.
I mean, John, he does the right thing. He gets on the brakes that little bit earlier. He realises that that Lewis is going to be on the brakes a little bit later. As look at this now into Riches once again. It's the same two drivers, and this time Lewis Clark. I think, is Higgins trying to redress the position, or is it just a case that Lewis is just that much quicker?
Could be. It depends on if any of them have any bits of damage from that contact as well. It was a bit of a shot, not a massive accident, but certainly something that can damage the cars if you make the contact in just the wrong place. But 6 minutes to see what the situation is between these two. In terms of the battle for the final podium position, you got Nathan Foster and Seb Hawkins. They're still within half a second of each other. Then you've got Ryan Elliott, Kieran Sharp, Dave Martin, that little battle train for 5th place in pro category as well. Still might have a little more to show in the final stages of this event. And remember, we have another race after this one as well. So you don't want to go away after this one is done, because if we have an action-packed race finish here, we might just be able to copy that in towards race number 2 as well.
I'll point out as well that Will Eatwell's lead has been eaten into a little bit, but I think that's more Will just managing his pace to a degree here over his teammate Samuel Jordan. But yeah, last lap was a 49.9 for Eatwell, a 49.3 for Jordan. So maybe they're just getting themselves ready for a bit of a team photo across the line, get themselves absolutely neck and neck across the line.
Yeah, I mean, great photo op, great for the marketing of the team, I suppose. Everyone else behind us, though, is more focused on their finishing positions in this race, because look at this. Almost pressing into the back number there is Kieran Sharp. As close as you'd like at this stage in the event. And again, the Higgins and Clark battle for P2 and AM is very much not over at this stage either. So multiple places to look at the very end of this race if you want to see any potential action here. And well, action we have now for P2 and AM as we see John Higgins keeping himself ahead of Lewis Clark here at the moment. But the pressure is certainly there, certainly lurking in his mirrors.
Yeah, keep your heads on the swivel, folks, because you won't know where to look here on this one. It certainly is giving us plenty to watch and to see here as they carry on. But certainly these drivers, they are pushing on and pushing hard, and it's great to see this. And as we say, battling all the way through the field. This for second place in AM. You've still got that fight for 5th place in pro as well. Those two, they're not swapping positions right now, and these two, I think they're just... It's down that start and finish straight, down the centre straight, which is where that Lewis Clark just seems to have that edge over John Higgins.
Yeah, just that slight edge, and that might be what he needs. He's a little bit quicker off of the right there as well. So Clark definitely seems to have the pace again, quicker through the entry towards Quorum there. So if he can carry this sort of performance all the way on towards the pit straight here, he might just have another chance in towards turn 1. Maybe a little heavy over the curb there at the final corner, but he's definitely close enough to sit in that slipstream and potentially to have a chance in towards Riches. That gap is just going to be closing up, closing up. Is there another lunge from Clark? No. Not this time around. He doesn't want that awkward swap over with the contacts like what happened just a couple of laps ago. Waiting for a more obvious opportunity, flashing of the lights to show the nose down the inside there as well.
Yeah, trying to get in the mirrors and trying to get in the head of John Higgins, and it's not working at the moment, but certainly is flashing the headlights. He's trying to just do anything he can to distract the driver in front, and it's just not quite working. But you saw the run that he got through Murray's down the start and finish straight again, looking to the inside of Agostini. That wasn't really on, was that one? But again, that was more about just showing his nose, getting in the mirrors, moving about, because if you could get that car in front, the driver in front, looking in their mirrors a lot more and driving on their mirrors. It slows them down and gives you opportunities of them making mistakes. Add to that the damage that John Higgins Jr. has to the front of his car after that contact at Riches, and well, it's certainly helping Lewis Clark's effort here, but we've only got 1 minute and 3/4 left.
Not a lot of time to get this done now, and there's a battle pair behind them as well, Brown and Roberts. So again, multiple places to look at here in the final handful of laps as we see these guys head their way through the final sector here now. This is very intriguing to watch because we had Clark get close, yes, but he didn't go for the move that last time around. But I mean, I think he might have to go for a lunge at some point here, coming towards the very end of the event. Out of the final corner then for these two. It's going to be that slipstream once again for the 22, coming up towards the start-finish line. So you see how much of an effect it has, pulling him along down in towards Riches, but not enough to get alongside there, maybe alongside a little bit further on.
Seb Hawkins has got himself up into 3rd place, and Foster, well, now he looks like he's been off the track, and the question is, was he pushed or was it himself? Did he jump? Well, we'll hopefully find out here. I think this is going to be a mistake from Foster.
Yeah, it could be. Hawkins a bit too far away. Oh yeah, it's a lazy one in towards Brundle as well, out on towards the grass, just gets hooked by the grass there, I think, and ends up losing those positions. Down into P6 there for Foster. It was looking like a surefire podium for him though. Meanwhile, 12 seconds left on the clock. This is the final lap here for Will Eatwell, so we'll keep a track of his progress. Meanwhile, that battle for 2nd place in AM, still within the same half a second, but it's really tough to see if there's a way through here for Clark in that circumstance.
I think with that battle for 2nd place, they do have another lap to go at it though. So even though they're just getting into Brundle and Nelson now, your race leader in Pro is just getting on to the Bentley Straight, so he's not close enough to put a lap on them. So they're going to have enough lap to go. These drivers, though, this is their last opportunities now to try and gain places. And it's now for 4th place after that mistake from Nathan Foster.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It just goes to show how much one mistake can affect things. And now he'll come under pressure from Kieran Sharp here towards the end as well. Down the back straight they come, the Bentley Straight, angling their way in towards Brundle now. Around the outside of Brundle is very, very difficult to do, but Sharp's going for it. Oh, not quite working out for him. Elliott will be able to keep behind. Oh no, Sharp is losing a position here right at the very last gasp of the race with a little bit of an overcorrection off the corner. It is going to be Will Eatwell though in the pro category that comes across the line to take the race win. But a little bit of a shuffle behind in that battle pack means that, well, Foster comes across the line in, Elliott comes across the line in 4th place, Foster in 5th, Sharp in 6th after losing that spot. Oh, he's going to be really kicking himself after that one.
Yeah, he'll be spitting feathers about that mistake coming out of Nelson. This race for 2nd place in AM is still ongoing, although there's a bit of a gap now actually formed between the two of them. So John Higgins Jr. just able to get a couple of tenths of a second further down the road, and every little tenth of a second you can have advantage is vital here in a race like this. And certainly Higgins Jr. just got a few more corners to go. Their race leader, by the way, is running through the bomb hole. Unbelievable, just driven away is Oliver Etheridge. Great drive.
Yeah, an incredible drive indeed, as the two behind do get a little bit closer through this final sector. Clark really wheeling that car around as he commits to every one of these corners. Higgins is very slow. Higgins is very slow indeed. Actually, there was an open door there through that section of Coram here. Can Clark do anything at the very end of this race? Does Higgins have problems? Is the damage too much? Does he have fuel issues? Who knows? As there's a dive down the inside there from Clark. Not successful, however. We do have to give credit to Oliver Etheridge for winning the race at AM there, but it was the guys for 2nd and 3rd that gave us a bit of a heart attack there.
Yeah, that was some last-minute stuff. I don't think that Lewis Clark is too happy with John Higgins Jr. With what happened down at Rich's earlier, but certainly, they're going at it even now on the cool down. You know, just be sensible, chaps. Deal with it afterwards. You don't need to deal with it on the track. But yeah, certainly great drive. Just drove away, did Oliver Ettridge, from the rest of the field, and just showed that speed and that just consistency in that race.
Yep, incredible stuff, and we didn't need to mention much about him. He was that dominant, 17 seconds ahead of Lewis Clark, but we'll go through our unofficial race results now. We've got Will Eatwell there taking the win in the pro category. They got Samuel Jordan in second, and Sebastian Hawkins coming across the line for a very respectable third place. Then you've got Ryan Elliott in fourth with Nathan Foster in fifth, Kieran Sharp in sixth place with Dave Martin in seventh, Jack Southfield in P8 with Andrew Pike, and Thor Tuller rounding out the top 10 with regards to the pro category, and Daniel Sedgley there at the very, very back of the field did not even take the start. We have to remind everyone there. Then we've got in the AM category, it's Oliver Ettridge by 17.2 seconds over Lewis Clark. So it was a very calm affair for the AM race win, but for the pack behind, less calm, shall we say. Lewis Clark and Graham Brown, P2 and P3. Then you've got Stephen Roberts there in fourth, Johnny Elliott, as he prefers to be called, in fifth place with Adam Locke in P6. John Higgins Jr. actually, so was there a penalty? Was there a penalty there for John Higgins that he was trying to serve at the very end of the event, but he wasn't able to serve without dropping the position? But because he, didn't serve it coming across the line, he gets the massive, basically, massive penalty given by the iRacing system at the very end there that sends him back to 7th place, Paul.
I'm just having a look at the results to find out. Post-race penalty for gaining time illegally. So basically, not serving a slowdown penalty.
Yeah, that was the other option I was thinking about when I saw that car slow coming in towards the final couple of final couple of corners, excuse me. And it did end up being the case. That's a hard one to take there for Higgins. You can see he wanted to try and desperately hold on to that position while also trying to serve the slowdown penalty. It's a very, very tricky thing to do. The thing is, if you don't serve the entirety of it, you're going to be stung with an even bigger penalty coming across the line here than if you would just sort of moving out of the way and pressing the brakes a bit harder. But yeah, a shock result in the AM category for those podium positions.
Yeah, certainly was. Will Eatwell, by the way, tremendous lap time as well, fastest lap of 1:49.1. Your GT3, your AMs, 1:53.8 for Oliver Ettridge, who did that on his last lap. So he had plenty of pace in that car, that is for sure. It just shows just how he was just maintaining things and just looking after the car, looking after the tyres, and then thought, I'm on my own, I might as well have a bit of fun at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could see why he was potentially maybe even a little bit bored at the front of the field. If you're leading by 13 seconds, 14 seconds over everyone else, then you can kind of forgive it a little bit. It is, for some drivers, actually a dangerous position to be in, because you kind of just get tunnel visions and all of a sudden you're not seeing a car that's spun in the middle of the circuit, or you just sort of make a random mistake and all of a sudden it all goes wrong. But for Ettridge, a very, very solid race, and as a result of this format, of course, we take the results from race 1. That's going to be the starting grid for race 2, which hurts Higgins even more.
Yeah, I think we're going to be seeing a charge through the field for John Higgins. I mean, I think that's pretty much a story of the opening race, wasn't it? The charges through the fields were Kieran Sharp and Jack Southfield not having the best of starts in that race, just having to work their way back through the field to try and get themselves towards the front. I thought it was a tremendous fight between initially Seb Hawkins and Ryan Elliott, but then Kieran got involved in that one, and then Andrew Pike was getting involved, but then he made his mistake at Wilson. Really intriguing fight. Not the most intense battle, but intriguing to see how it sort of all panned out.
We can actually get the opportunity to talk to the winner of the AM category. We got Oliver Ettridge into the commentary booth, and Oliver, we were just discussing your situation in that particular race. It seemed like a very comfortable Sunday drive for you in the AM category. Is that what it felt like behind the wheel?
Not at the start of the race, it didn't. A couple of laps in, maybe it got a bit more relaxed. I'm not entirely sure what happened off the start, but I looked down at my relative and all of a sudden I had a couple of seconds gap to the entire field, and the entire RAM class was reversed from what qualifying was. And then, from there I just set myself a target lap time and just tried to match it every lap. Yeah,
absolutely. It's, that's at least your strategy of dealing with it, because we were going through, sometimes being on your own in no man's land, so to speak, can sometimes be a bit dangerous because of you might just get sort of zoned out in a way and not see something obvious, someone stranded in the middle of the track and things like that. So is that sort of matching that target lap time how you sort of keep your brain preoccupied when you don't have anyone around you?
Yeah, definitely. I've done endurance races on the sim in the past where you're 2 hours in to your stints and you just lose focus, miss a braking point, and that's it, race done. So definitely didn't want that to happen today.
So what's the plan coming in towards race number 2 then? Because you obviously have not only the clear air pace in the qualifying, but also in the race pace as well. So is it the same sort of strategy in race 2? Keep yourself out of trouble in the start and basically hot lap again?
Yeah, if I can. These races always seem to have quite a lot of very hard battling when the pack is together. So if I can get away at the front, brilliant. If not, then I think this point in the championship, just try and survive the full half an hour and bring some points home.
Yeah, that does seem to be the case for a lot of the drivers in this one, and of course the fact that you do not have your closest competitor in the championship, Adam Holloway, actually competing in this particular round, has that given you a boost as well?
Yeah, it's made life a bit easier for me, I think, because with no drop weeks in this championship, missing out on a week is missing out on 50 points potentially. So yeah, it's definitely given me a bit of a boost.
All right, so we'll wish you the best of luck for race number 2. We'll let you go and get prepared because the server's up in just a couple of minutes, and we'll hopefully, if all goes well, we'll speak to you at the end of race 2 as well.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you very much.
All right, there we go. That was Oliver Ettridge there, winner in the AM category, Paul. Seems like he has a plan of action when he's at the front. It's sometimes as simple as that, just to keep your brain preoccupied.
Yeah, it's a good plan, really, if you think about it. Just set yourself a target and keep, okay, right, I've got that lap time to work to, let's work to that. I mean, I was doing in another series, an endurance race, and I was involved in a race for a podium spot, and I was 5-6 seconds behind, and I just wasn't gaining, but it was a case of, right, let's do my lift and course, just work to a lap time, work to a delta, don't make those mistakes, and then sure enough it panned out, ended up finishing 3rd place because of just having that mentality of, I've got a number to work to, let's work to that time, let's work to that number, and works out beautifully. It stops the mind wandering, Connery, which I know some people can have struggles with if they just find themselves suddenly way out in front.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've never ever found myself way out in front, so I don't think I can really relate to the situation. But yeah, it's. I mean, I also used to race a lot of ovals, and you have a caution to break up the the long run sometimes. So that might be a thing that disrupts things. But heading in towards race number 2 now, I would say pending something catastrophic, I don't think we'll see much change in terms of the very fronts of the fields here, because we had Will Eatwell just kind of not necessarily waltz away at the front of the field. Of course, he was sort of kept honest by his teammate a little bit, within 2 seconds. So it's not a massive issue, but I get the feeling that even he hasn't shown his true pace here today, given that he hasn't really been that closely challenged. It's sort of the same in Am with Ettridge. He got away pretty well. So unless one of those drivers really has a particularly poor start, and we saw that happen. We saw that happen in the first race there, especially in those 911 Cup cars, where you have the slightly different process of getting the clutch biting point right and making sure that you can get that launch off the corner. It's a very tricky car to start, and it could really happen to anyone. I mean, we see it even in the very top level of competition in PESC from time to time, that they can't always nail the starts.
Oh, no, absolutely not. I mean, we literally saw it last night in the Contender Series in the Porsche Tagore Esports Super Cup. So, it does show all the way through the different levels of competition here with Porsche, and it shows that it's a tricky car to get away with off the line, but once you are able to get it going, you can get some good momentum. I was looking in the virtual paddock. Ryan Elliott was actually saying that he was hanging on for dear life with that position in the end for him in 4th place. He was under a lot of pressure, and I tell you what, bar 1 or 2 little errors, I think he did a really, really good job of it.
Yeah, I think so too. It's always tricky when you put it in that situation where the tyres are not doing what you're asking of them. And you're sort of driving beyond the limit, so to speak. It's a very, very tricky place to be, to even keep the car in the grey stuff coming through some of those corners. So yeah, he did a very good job considering the situation that he found himself in here. Hopefully he has a plan of action here in the second race to not quite get into that same situation. Of course, it's going to be a little bit later in the day here, because that was more of a morning race, so the track temps are going to be a little bit higher here for this next one. So, which is not really what any of them wanted to hear, but it's just the situation handed to them, and maybe that tyre management comes a little bit more into it for this race 2 compared to race 1.
Yeah, we're only about 3 minutes away from the second race starting, so I know the drivers will be getting themselves into the server. I know you yourself will be getting yourself into the server. It's just so we can bring you pictures of what's happening, or else I'll be breaking out my old radio commentary duty once again. I have been known to have to do that in the past to give it the old RaceSpot radio. So
we've had to do it before when equipment was less reliable, and we didn't even get to see what the producer was seeing in sim in a lot of cases as well. So it was like we kind of had to revert to that. But thankfully I am in, and we're not going to have that situation, touch wood, here for the moment. But yeah, we are just a handful of minutes away from getting ourselves our race 2 here, and we've kind of already set the expectations here, at least what we expect to see with regards to the race leaders. But in terms of the mid-pack, we've seen them relatively close over the course of today, and I don't see any reason really why that should change coming into this second event.
No, it shouldn't really, should it? It's certainly been exciting to watch that mid-pack. A little bit hotter track temperature, and with it being a technical opening to this lap, you're putting a lot of braking and then accelerating out of corners in this first sector of the lap, and that's where, especially these Cup cars, the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car, really works its tyres, and that's where you may be seeing a few of the drivers just struggling with the tyre heat, tyre temperature, and towards the end of that race, a few drivers were mentioning that they were struggling for grip. So we might see a little bit of a change up in this second race, maybe a few more mistakes coming with this one, with it being about 8 degrees hotter track temperature.
Yeah, all of these factor in, of course. when we talk about these races, all these different variables as a driver that you have to manage inside the car. It's not just necessarily about going fast, putting the best lap times down in there. It's more of a management of the entire situation, the entire race for a lot of these guys, especially if they don't have, you know, teammates in the background, you know, working for them, running the numbers. Okay, what's the situation? How much are we catching the car ahead? What's the state of the race elsewhere? Because the driver can't necessarily think about all those things at the same time, unless you're someone like Sebastian Vettel, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a lot to have to try and process if you're out there driving, and you've also got to worry about who's doing what, where, and when. So yeah, you've got to be on top of things, and hopefully have a good spotter with you if you do have somebody watching for you.
Yeah, absolutely. But drivers will be transferring over into our second race session of the evening, and we can bring you the starting grid for that one as well. But it really, if you remember the results, it's the starting grid is the results. So we've got Will Eatwell starting on pole position here, and then of course we have Samuel Jordan also on the front row as well. We have a little bit of an issue with our grid graphic there, but I'll take you through verbally. It's Sebastian Hawkins and Ryan Elliott. Then we've got Nathan Foster lining up on the pro grid as well. And then you've also got Kieran Sharp, Dave Martin, Jack Southfield, Andrew Pike, Fortulla in that order. In the AM category, we have Oliver Ettridge, Lewis Clark, Graham Brown, Steve Roberts, Johnny Elliott, Adam Locke, Higgins and Foster rounding out those positions here. And just as I finish, these drivers are just about ready to go here for the second race of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge here at Snetterton. And again, it's a poor start from the first row. This time, it's a Samuel Jordan who drops back to 7th place off at the start. Side by side battling ahead. This is Foster and Elliott going wheel to wheel through Riches for the first time as we get filed in back. Then Sharp and Southfield now have the overlap, the two teammates, as Elliott with a little bit of an error off of Wilson there, going very, very wide, allowing a couple of cars to slip up underneath him.
He's fighting it back though, and he's certainly not giving this one up on Jack Southfield without a fight, and he does stay ahead. We've got a spinner in the background of the shot. That's your it's your AMS. It's Graham Brown is one of those. John Higgins Jr. the other, after such a tumultuous event for Higgins to end up out, well, pretty much out of the running in this second race. And we've got more drama, and that's Andrew Pike who's around.
Yeah, Andrew Pike with issues and falling not only to the back of the pro order, but towards the back of the AM order as well. So a couple of drivers having big issues here at the start of race number 2. Is not what we want to see, and in fact more issues. That's Dave Martin in the barriers in the number 4 as well. So I guess add his name to the list of drivers that would have had a start to forget. Elliott off.
Well, you'd kind of think that these drivers would know that they've got cold tyres and the tyres aren't up to full tyre pressure yet. It takes a lap or two for those to come through, but yeah, certainly these drivers letting it all hang out. The track will be a little bit slippier with it being a little bit hotter out there, so definitely these drivers are pushing on and just trying to get whatever the result they can do. But well, for the drivers up at the front right now, Eatwell, Hawkins and Foster, they'll be delighted with that start. Ettridge has got Lewis Clark with him, and I think Clark will give him a good push in the early going of this race.
Yeah, we'll have a little bit of a recap of exactly what happens here after the race start. There's the poor start from Jordan. So for the second race in a row, the driver in P2 has failed to really get anywhere off for the start there. So it's very unfortunate to see. There's Pike having an issue at the very back of the field, almost running into the back of the car ahead. 2 tyres into the grass for another further back as well. So it seems like it was a bit of a tumultuous start for multiple drivers here. Here's Graham Brown with his issues, and I think Higgins Jr. had a kind of a sympathy spin back there as well. Here's the issue with Pike that I had. It's a solo car incident, it seems, although there may have been a bit of air between the two of them as he spins off. Then you got Dave Martin, who had issues a little bit later on as well, and that's another cold tyre situation I would have thought there as well, with impact with the barrier. So yeah, there's a lot of cold tyre shenanigans going on here in race 2.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Adam Locke has had issues out there as well. He's had issues in your AM category as well on this lap, and in fact we're going to have a look at that now, and that's Agostini, and that is contact between Locke and James Foster.
Yeah, that was less of a cold tyre issue, more of a driving issue there between the two. It was a bit of a
fair play to Foster, held back and allowed Locke back past.
Yeah, that's what we like to see. If you've done something wrong, then you'd rather give the position back on circuit than risk a potential bigger penalty once the race is done and the stewards have had a look at it. There are some cases where, even though you've given the place back, that's not necessarily done with the punishments. There is precedence for that, not just in this series, but with other series as well, managed by the same admins. So it's not necessarily a get-out-of-jail-free card. However, it is a big help.
It's looked at favourably,
yeah.
is what I will say. It is a case of, all right, okay, yes, you've caused that incident. I mean, and if it is something that's just demonstrably bad, with an attempted overtake, then yes, they will give you a penalty. But with something like that, where it's just a bit of a look and you've made contact, it's a bit clumsy, but then you give the place back. Generally speaking, the stewards are going to say, yeah, that's enough. You've redressed the position, get on with it.
Yeah, and so that's the situation between the two of them there, but it has been kind of an instant disrupted second race here, at least in the early goings at Snetterton. Have a little bit of a recap of what's going on in the AM category. Oliver Ettridge yields a 0.6 of a second advantage over Lewis Clark here at the moment, and actually Clark went just a bit faster by 0.5 of a second on that previous lap. So Lewis Clark potentially not quite letting Ettridge get away this time around compared to race 1. So Ettridge might potentially have a bit of a race on here if he's not too careful.
Or is it a case of Ettridge is just trying to manage the car, manage the tyres and that, and just bring it in? If you can ease your tyres in and not push them too hard early on here, it pays dividends later on in the race for you. So yeah, maybe Oliver Ettridge is just doing that, just bringing that car into play and before he then starts pushing on. Don't forget, of course, everybody's on a fixed setup, and that's a mistake from Nathan Foster that's going to allow Kieran Sharp to go look down the inside.
Oh, and well, more of a look down the inside. It's Foster running out into the grass and basically giving up the position. And now Southfield wants a piece of this as well. Around the outside he goes, or at least he attempts, but not successful this time around as Jordan sticks his nose in, perhaps where it doesn't belong. And both drivers have a bit of an instant there. And, well, Elliott's going to pick up these positions.
Oh, Southfield, Jack Southfield, he'll be absolutely incandescent with rage right now. He'll be furious at that one, because that gap is always closing. That is always closing, is that? And if you stick your nose in on that corner in particular at Williams, it's always going to close, is that gap. It's just fact. It always happens at that corner.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, all incidents, we have to reiterate, are reviewed post-race by the stewards. There's going to be no action taken for these things during the race. Although I do know leagues that have said that, some top level that have had to take action during races sometimes if it's particularly egregious. But we'll put that aside for now. But it's yeah, it's an incident that you don't really want to see there. You can kind of understand it from a driver psychology level. You see, oh, there's a gap. I'm going to go for the gap, try and get myself lodged in there. but there's a time and a place, and that late on into that corner is not the place to be doing it when, like you said, that's going to be closing, and in fact the car ahead is already starting to close the door before you even make the move.
Yeah, because you got to remember as well, that car that Jack Southfield wouldn't have been looking for that overtake attempt to be happening. He's looking at the car in front of him at the mistake from Nathan Foster, and well, he's trying to take advantage of that. He's following him through, and then all of a sudden the car sticks its nose in, and bang, around you go.
Indeed it was, and it's kind of disrupted definitely disrupted the closest battle that we had out on circuit. Right now that is currently, well, believe it or not, there's both these drivers. Oh, we've had Thortella actually lose a position there to Jack Southfield. It's not been a great day for Thor as he cycles his way down further back through the fields. He's not the driver that's had the most issues in this race. Those are Andrew Pike and Dave Martin, who are currently sort of as a two-car team trying to get themselves back through the Anfield.
Now they've got to be careful with all of this, because the last thing that they want to do is cause an accident with AM teams, with AM cars, and get themselves a penalty. So you've got to be careful when running through a field like this. Thankfully for them, they are able to do that. But yeah, it's Steve Roberts will have been thinking, oh, you're putting me offline through Coram there. But fortunately for him, Johnny Elia was not close enough to take advantage of that in that 11th, 10th car. So Elia, he's looking, see, this is a fun. Elia, after that incident on lap 1 in the first race, looking to try and get some sort of redemption, and that's very, very wide.
Yeah, playing a bit of rallycross here as Elliott dives himself down the inside at Wilson. A bit of a door check through the middle of the corner, but Elliott has been able to get himself through, although they are continuing to go wheel to wheel, in fact, as Roberts will gain back the inside through the long left-hander. And is there a bit of a squeeze there? Not quite. There's still enough racing room given between the two of them, although they are still very, very close as they head their way into Hamilton. Let's see how this all goes.
Yeah,
Agostini's there. Hamilton's the next corner.
Yeah, it is. But Roberts was absolutely making sure that Elia had no space to look down the inside into Agostini, force him to the wide line. It is pretty much almost impossible to make the overtake around the outside at Agostini. You've got to have a significant pace advantage over the car in front for you to be able to actually make it and make it stick. So yeah, certainly you want the inside line into Agostini, because that is very much the preferred line. Elia now, again, just put the pressure on. Get the pressure on the car in front, force a mistake. We've seen the mistake happen on this lap for Steve Roberts, so it's not beyond the realms of possibility here. But these two are losing touch with both Lewis Clark and Oliver Etheridge, who is just gapping out a little bit. Oh, Johnny, I'll tell you now from experience, I've made a lunge down the inside into Murray's and punted former teammate of mine, David Baker, who was very colourful in his choice of language of what he thought of me. Had something to do with it being on the last lap as well, though.
Was he your teammate at the time?
No.
Okay, that makes it just a little bit better. Okay, because when you said former teammate, I was like, is that the reason why former teammate?
No.
But yeah, you are right. It's a tempting move, but yeah, it never really works out unless both of you try to deliberately slow each other up, slow down and keep, try and make the contact not happen. But if one is a little bit too eager, then it does end in tears coming through there most of the time.
So those two, they're pretty much sort of just calmed down now and are just getting back into a rhythm here. They're not really showing much. I'll tell you what, Ryan Elliott's had a busy afternoon here. Samuel Jordan making the move on him there into Brundle and Nelson, but Ryan has certainly been in the thick of things all the way through today's coverage. And I'll tell you what, if you're a potential sponsor of a sim racing driver, get in touch with Ryan because he gets he gets on camera a lot.
Involved in everything. It's a very bare car in terms of sponsors. So yeah, there might be some slots if you ask him nicely. But yeah. Meanwhile, the driver that just got through on him, Jordan. Well, he's on a bit of recovery drive after a very, very poor start indeed. Trying to get off the line again. It's sort of a curse of second place. It felt like in the two races that we've had, because both times second place has just completely failed to get themselves off the line and have lost like what 5 or 6 spots pretty much immediately.
I'll tell you now that that basically I have seen some big accidents on the start line with cars not pulling away very well. I think back to the British Touring Car Championship back in 1993. There was a big multi-car accident. There was an accident a few years ago which actually took out one of the camera stands. Fortunately, the cameraman was okay, but it's quite a narrow track, so these drivers did a very good job with those slower cars on the grid struggling to get away. Did a very good job of not having a big accident on the start and finish straight. Yeah,
because I imagine at most sort of Grand Prix, FIA Grade 1 circuits, you have a lot of room to maneuver. But yeah, like you said, here it's kind of, you can only get, 4 cars, maybe 5 at a push abreast. I wouldn't want to try it.
I wouldn't even say 4 here. It's comfortably you could get 3 wide, but it will feel like a squeeze. But 4, you'd be pushing your luck. I can tell you that for sure. It is quite a narrow start line here at Snetterton. You're normally talking about for like a Grand Prix venue, 15 to 18 meters wide, whereas here it's not as wide as that. So you've just got to have that little bit of patience at some of these national circuits here in the UK.
Just gotta keep your heads up driving. The thing is that one of the things that in sim racing that we don't have compared to real life when it comes to cars slow off the start is that we don't have the marshals that are on the pit wall. If there's a car stopped or stalled or slow getting off of their spot, they would obviously deploy the yellow flag. So that means that everyone else has a heads up of, oh, okay, there's a slow car up ahead here. I've got to be watching out. We don't actually have that here in iRacing.
I mean, even if it was a car just slow away, they wouldn't necessarily deploy the yellow flag. It's more if there's a car stationary that they would do that. But as we continue watching this fight for third place, Kieran Sharp and Nathan Foster. Nathan must be wondering what on earth whether he let a black cat walk in front of him or something like that, walked under a ladder or something with what's happened in this race. But certainly he can push on, he can get a good result yet, and both of them are not that far away from Seb Hawkins, if we're all honest. Will Eatwell's just waltzed away at the front once again. He's 100% so far this season and looks to be keeping it up and keeping it going.
Yep, and you can't really complain if you're Will Eatwell, just stretching your legs over everyone else. It was a little bit of a closer affair at Silverstone for our first round of the championship, but that was Silverstone's kind of a bit of an equaliser in terms of circuits because of the draft component. So, but ever since then, it seems like Will Eatwell's been doing very well and making this championship look pretty convincing. At this stage, 6 seconds, and we still got 13 minutes left to go in the race. His advantage over Hawkins. That's a pretty good place to be, and he's looking to. If he, touch wood, comes across the line first place this time around, he will be looking to try and complete the perfect season next week.
I don't think I've ever commentated on somebody doing a perfect season. They've come close. I think I had one series. I think it was actually Porsche Esports Crowd Cup Great Britain, where Sebastian Job, I think, only just missed out on 1 race win in a season. So we've come close to it, but we've not quite had it. Meanwhile, your AMs there's a couple of battles. I'll tell you what, Oliver Etheridge is not pulling away from Lewis Clark like did in race 1, but this one, Steve Roberts and Johnny Elia are still going at it.
Yeah, they are. It's great to see these guys stuck together like glue out there on circuit, and you quite rightfully mentioned Etheridge not having the double-digit amount of seconds advantage like he had in race number 1, and well, it's less than a second between himself and Lewis Clark here at the moment. So definitely one to keep an eye on. I haven't really seen, you know, the massive strides forwards for Lewis Clark required to really lock onto the back of Etheridge here at the moment. He was 0.02 of a second faster, or actually basically 1.5 hundredths of a second faster on that last lap. So not really the margin that you want to be catching per lap to make this closer than it is.
Yeah, as we go through Coram. Oh, Andrew Pikes stopped out on track, came up on my track map with a yellow flag, and back up and running. That was down at Murray's. Yeah, that was down at Murray's. I have a funny feeling somebody is going to make an attempt at an overtake here.
Oh, let's have a look. Yes, there is a lunge from the number 4. Yeah, I mean, you can see that happening from a mile back, can't you? That was Dave Martin. Yeah, that was Dave Martin having a hopeful little look.
If you're going to do it like I did that time on David Baker and properly punt him off. But no, it's just a little bit clumsy. Is that it's one of those corners that it is almost impossible to, enough one of those where it's almost impossible to make a move at. It's almost like Cop's Corner at Silverstone, according to one Formula 1 team manager. But yeah, it's a very difficult corner as Murray's to be able to make a move and make it stick.
Yeah, and it's really that latter point is more of the issue coming through there. Because you don't want to really surrender any speed coming into there, because you know, because you have the pit straight afterwards, that you're going to be a sitting duck if you lift out, or take a compromised line. So it's you can kind of see why a lot of incidents happen down at that particular corner. We have this battle for third place. This is Steve Roberts and Johnny Elliott keeping each other honest. We've also got battle for second place. Seb Hawkins has been caught by Kieran Sharp here in the defensive line from Hawkins through the hairpin there. A little bit of a tap to the back bumper from Sharp as well. This has gotten interesting all of a sudden.
Kieran Sharp half a second quicker on that last lap alone over Seb Hawkins, so he's got pace in that car now, and the TSRC driver will be looking to put the pressure on Seb Hawkins. But Seb is somebody that we've known for quite a while. He's a wily character, and he will give this one up without fight, that's for sure. Of course, the team manager is Seb, so a little bit of double duty here tonight.
One of the more prolific ones as well, as far as team managers go. Of course, help manage the sort of the ex-Williams Esports outfit, or is ex-Williams Esports, and he's continuing to show that he's a decent driver here at the moment as well. It's not only managing teams, but also getting stuck in and showing that he can do it himself. Of course, his current role is with Guild Esports. But it's but yeah, it's great to see. It's great. A kind of leadership quality to have is sort of like, hey, I can be the boss. I can just sort of manage things from a higher conceptual level as part of the business, but I can get down and dirty as well.
It shows that you can really sort of get yourself involved in this one and say, look, here we go. Here's how you do it, chaps. This is how you can go and run these races. But yeah, Hawkins having to go defensive here onto the brakes into Wilson. And Sharp is certainly putting the pressure on right now.
Yeah, this is great to see. 7.5 minutes left to try and resolve this battle. But Sharp really showing that he has the pace at this stage. It's a great performance so far, but Can he execute on it? As it's not going to be easy to get past Seb here, not by any means. He can be quite formidable in terms of the defense, so it's going to be a massive challenge. But again, some time to deal with it. Not like there's any pressing issues. Not like Sharp is trying to pass and then try and catch Eatwell by the end of this race, because Eatwell's kind of in the league of his own, going a tenth of a second faster at every single lap than everyone else here at the moment, and I don't think that's his maximum pace. So it is kind of the battle for the best of the rest, I suppose.
Yeah, it's Eatwell's just, I mean, look at him. He's just so far ahead right now. These two, though, they're slowing each other down by having this battle in, but my goodness, they're giving us a good run. And
Eatwell did a 49.6 last time. These guys are doing 50.8s and 50.7s. At least on that last lap between these two. Obviously, it's like there are people further back to the field that's sort of in the high 49s, but it's it just goes to show.
Sam Jordan, the 49.5, you know, he's lapping quicker than your race leader, is Sam. Just unfortunately, he's 12 seconds back. So yeah, it's definitely certainly showing that there is pace out there for these drivers, but time is running out. It's been a great race to watch this one, and certainly Seb is feeling under pressure, but Nathan Foster is closing up to these two as well here, so we could have a trio going for that second place soon.
Yeah, so yeah, lots. Well, we've got ourselves a battle on for the final potential moments of the race here. We're getting very late in the day here, and I can imagine we've got Foster, you know, also there lurking in the wings. So if anything goes wrong in this particular battle for second place, Foster is there to try and capitalize. Doesn't even have to be a catastrophic incident. It could just be a couple of extended moments of wheel-to-wheel action, and all of a sudden that number 52 is there, ready to try and pick up a podium.
How they're going to do this now, down the back straight, and still just staying behind is Kieran Sharp. No move being made yet. Oliver Ettridge in your M class now, 3 seconds clear of Lewis Clark, so definitely a gap formed between those two. I think it was very much a car and tyre management, and then just get the hammer down and just get that comfort gap to be able to lead that AM class. But still, Hawkins doing a good job looking after his car and tyres as we come across the line once again. We should be about 3 laps remaining in this race.
Should be 2/10 of a second as they head their way in towards Riches here, and it looks like Sharp getting a good run through there, so might have an opportunity here in towards Wilson. Decides to take the big wide arc through and try to go around the outside, but it's very, very tough to do around there. Maybe has to try and now have a potential look into Agostini. They're heading their way through Palmer now. Let's see what the drive is like off the corner. Sharp seems to be getting all this momentum to work with, and is forcing Hawkins to go defensive into Agostini now. Is there an upper on the opportunity here for Sharp? No, there is not. Hawkins places his car in the right place at the right time, and well, lives to fight another day, maintains that second place.
Oh, Hawkins. Now, I don't think Hawkins needed to defend that inside line there, going into the right hand at Oggies. So, fortunately, able to carry on fine. And he's actually just pulled a little bit of a gap there on corner exit. These two slowing each other down is allowing Nathan Foster to close up to them. Not that far back as well as Sam Jordan, who we said had been putting in those impressive laps, so he's not that far off here. We could have a quartet for the final 2 steps of the podium into the final couple of laps.
Yeah, let's get more participants into this battle, shall we, as we head through Coram now. A little bit of a wider line, at least through the vast majority of the corner there, taken by Hawkins. Sharp sort of lurking behind, about 4.5 tenths of a second back, but he gets a better drive off of the final corner there. That seems to be the theme for Sharp here. He's excellent off of the corners, which is allowing a couple of opportunities here and there, but hasn't been able to get into a position to capitalize on it just yet. Look how much speed he carries through Riches.
Yeah, and that's just that. I wonder if that's just Kieran has been able to look after his tyres a little bit, but Seb Hawkins, the wily driver that he is, parking the car on the apex, not allowing that dive under, that wide line in and cut under exit for Kieran Sharp. And again, going defensive in towards Agostini is basically dictating to Kieran Sharp, you are not going inside at all. That is my line. If you want to go past me, you have to go around the outside here. And Sharp not getting his way, but keeping the pressure on. And again, look, there's different lines. It's working out for Hawkins, but also what could help Hawkins here is Nathan Foster getting involved here, because if he gets involved and starts battling with Sharp, Hawkins could well pull away, as now he's trying to break the draft down the Bentley straight.
Yep, he is, but I mean, it keeps him. I mean, he's not under threat in towards Brundle, but it kind of is a little bit of an insight into the mentality here at the moment. We're coming up towards the start of the final lap here in just a little bit, and 4 cars now involved in this particular battle. We'll have to see how this one all turns out, because Hawkins, it does look like he's really struggling, at least compared to Sharp with the tyre performance. He just needs to hold on for one more lap, but a scrappy exit out of the final corner is not going to help. He is Kieran Sharp with the slipstream. Does he go for a move down in towards Riches? That's the question. He looks towards the outside. Can he carry momentum through? It's wheel to wheel for second place in Pro towards the end of race number 2. There's the defensive line by Hawkins taken in towards the Wilson hairpin. He's going to have potentially a compromise line coming off the corner, but no, he's going to keep himself ahead for now. Now what does Foster do? What does Jordan do in the background potentially if he gets himself a chance to get involved?
This is great stuff here in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Great Britain, and good to see this between them. The AMs are pretty much settled in where they are, but Will Eatwell, he's had his porridge this morning. He's really just gone clear at the front, but this is such an enthralling battle to the end here of this race, and they've got about half a lap remaining in this one.
Yep, they do, and it's Hawkins has been able to gain just a 1/10 of a second back, but that's all going to be wound in here. Sharp is not really giving this one up, but 4/10 of a second down the Bentley straight, potentially just that little bit too far back here. He might go for the look, and but not the lunge, shall we say, as they head their way in towards this final sector now. It's been a great fight to watch, and Hawkins has to be careful not to get a slowdown penalty like we saw disrupt a battle towards the end of race number 1. But for Will Eatwell, it's been a very comfortable affair. Fantastic stuff. Eatwell across the line to take the win in the Pro category. As far as the rest of the podium in Pro, it is Hawkins that holds on for a very well-worked second place up against a lot of pressure. Sharp across the line in 3rd. Foster and Jordan round out the top 5 in that particular little battle pack. Of course, we have to wait for the AMs to head their way across the line as well, but for now, it looks like it's going to be a second race win of the day for Ettridge.
Yeah, tremendous stuff. I mean, Will Eatwell 100% still in victories here in this championship, so he'll be delighted with that performance. But Oliver Ettridge as well, really good performance this week. Qualifying was 2/10 clear of everybody else. Got fortunate in the first race of the evening in not to get involved in that big incident that happened down at the Wilson hairpin. And then this race, he had it a bit tougher. Lewis Clark was keeping him honest, but these last third of the race has been able to just pull away at the front, and a 4-second lead to take to the line. Well done, Oliver Ettridge.
Oliver Ettridge, winner in the AM category here for race 2 at Snetterton of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Great Britain. He does it this time by 4.7 seconds over Lewis Clark, who ran him a bit close towards the very end there. Speaking of, the end of the event, we've got Adam Locke and James Foster getting themselves a bit close towards the end here. But in the end, it is going to be Locke winning out in that particular battle, 5th place for the 5-5-5. I love it when that happens. As there we go, across the line they come. And of course, it's going to be John Higgins Jr., which is the last driver to head their way across the line after that, of course, instant at the very start of the race for Higgins. But we have our second race in the books. And, from this point forwards, we can look, of course, towards that finale in just a week's time. But before we do, we can have a look at our unofficial race results. It is Will Eatwell by this time around 11 seconds over Sebastian Hawkins. That's your front two finishes for Pro. Then we've got Kieran Sharp rounding out the podium. Then you've got Nathan Foster and Samuel Jordan rounding out the top 5. Then you've got Ryan Elliott, Jack Southfield, Dave Martin, Andrew Pike, and Thor Tulloch rounding out the top 10. Then you have a look down in towards your AM category. This is Oliver Ettridge taking yet another race win by 4.7 seconds over Lewis Clark. And then you've got Steve Roberts rounding out the podium. Then you got Johnny Elliott in 4th place with Adam Locke in 5th, James Foster in 6th place, and John Higgins Jr. in 7th. Then you got Graham Brown with the only driver a lap down in that AM category, but does end up finishing the race. So that's the top to bottom order for race number 2 for our event here at Snetterton in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Great Britain. Of course, the race winners ended up being, well, pretty convincing, all things considered. Ettridge and Eatwell, they've definitely been the class of the field here today. But for those positions, sometimes directly behind, it was a different story, wasn't it? It got a bit close there for P2 in Pro category as Hawkins kind of struggled a little bit towards the end of the race and dropped off with the pace, but was still able to hold on.
Yeah, was able to hold on, but defended in the right places at the right time, as we mentioned earlier on, as the fireworks go off outside where I am right now. Obviously celebrating the great win of Will Eatwell and Oliver Ettridge as well. But yeah, certainly Seb was under some serious pressure there from Kieran Sharp and Nathan Foster and Sam Jordan right at the end. But put the car in the right place at the right time, showed that experience that he's got.
Yeah, it really did, and it's fantastic to see. But we do have a couple of interviews to really get going on with, and we'll leave Ettridge until later. We'll have a talk to one of our pro drivers. We'll talk to the one, the only, Mr. Seb Hawkins. And, Seb, it got a bit concerning for you at the very end there with Sharp, Foster, Jordan all closing in. Of course, the former of those three really giving their best shots. What was the situation behind the wheel? Were you struggling with tyres towards the end there? What was the deal?
I think I'd be lying if I said I wasn't struggling with tyres, but yeah, no, it was good. I had tyre in the back pocket. I sort of opted for the middle of the race to kind of save as much as possible. It worked really well in the first race, and I knew that they were either going to use it to attack or use it to push and close the gap. So once I got a bit of a gap, I could save the tyre and then use it to defend for the absolute life of me. And so yeah, after last round where it didn't go as well for me, this was pretty good points haul for a Sunday evening.
Yeah, it was great, all things considered, with this second place in race 2 in particular, especially up against all that pressure behind. Of course, in terms of the championship at this stage, you were in 4th place coming into this one. You're going to be potentially gaining points over Jordan and gaining points over Southfield, definitely, at least in this particular race. So is it all about just a battle for P2 in the championship now, knowing that Will is so far ahead above everyone else?
Yeah, look, top three's got prizes, right? And that's the key. That's the bit. And after last weekend, it was quite a surprise to be P4 and not far off the top. So I think that probably gave me a bit of motivation this weekend to just know going into Snetterton it was going to be, I was expecting it to be a bit more of a race of attrition. Maybe it was, didn't see much, just try to keep the head down and not lock up at all because it was just a pain. But again, it's Kieran's just put in the Discord chat about the defending. It's so hard to pass at Snetterton, and certainly in the hot temperatures. So if you just position the car in the right places, it's almost impossible to overtake. So I was quite miffed with qualifying because that was all my track position just completely out the window after I had a monumental lock up into the hairpin. But luckily a good start, so I was able to kind of put myself up there for race 2.
Yeah, it was definitely very well recovered. I do want to go on, of course, because your primary role is more in the team management side of Guild Esports. How's the response been from a couple of the drivers that you're used to sort of managing, but now you're doing what they do on a daily basis? Do they keep up with the races? Do they give you their support?
Yeah, look, the team's really good. This is it's been nice joining my opportunity now to get back out in the car. Has been really good. I've got a bit more free time, which has been nice, so I can actually enjoy sim racing as well as just always been in the commanding seat. So being able to get back in the rig and something like this championship is a perfect fit. It's fixed setup. You know, I can put as many hours as I've got into it and just enjoy it. At the end of the day, if I finish at the back of the championship, I'd still have a smile on my face. You know, there's worse things to be doing on a Sunday evening, but it's good. It's nice to enjoy it and nice to be surrounded by some really good competition and keeping me certainly keen.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a fantastic attitude to bring to it. Of course, we have a finale in a week's time, so we will wish you the very best of luck for that once we head to Brands Hatch. Same time, same place next week, and we'll enjoy the rest of your evening, Seb.
And you. Cheers, both.
All right, there we go. That was Seb Hawkins there, finishing second place here in race number 2 for Guild Esports, Paul. And it's a great attitude there that he had to take. He said, you know, it's great to get back in the groove. And he did mention that this is fixed setup. Of course, that is sometimes a potential barrier for people who don't have the time necessarily to, you know, focus on building a setup for a particular race, because it doesn't take, you know, just an hour or two. Maybe if you're very, very quick. But it takes a lot of testing to try and get the setup dialed in. But if you just have one handed to you, or be it the iRacing baseline or one that someone else has created, it takes a lot of burden off and sort of opens up the opportunities to more people, leveling the playing field too.
Yeah, it gives you that time to be able to, that limited time that you've got, rather than spending it going, let's tweak this camber, let's tweak his toe in, toe out, whatever. You know, it takes it away from focusing on that to, right, this is a setup. I need to learn how to go as quick as possible around this track with this setup. So definitely it does help. With series like this, I think it does make it a bit more open to more people to be able to compete than maybe those people who are more full-time or even semi-pro with their sim racing who have a lot more time to devote to things like setup.
Yeah, absolutely. We will get the opportunity to speak to one more driver here, and we'll bring Oliver Ettridge up in towards the commentary booth for the second time today. I did say, hopefully, if all goes well, Oliver, that we'll be speaking to you at the end of race 2, and we are. It was a little bit of a closer margin this time around. It's 4.7 seconds back to Lewis Clark. How did it feel out there today? Because it did seem like Lewis gave you a very good run, at least in that first half of the race.
Yeah, definitely. Lewis had a lot of pace early on. I was desperately trying at the start of the race to get him out of the slipstream. And then, thankfully, a couple of Cup cars, Carrera Cup cars came through. I managed to sort of signal them to stay behind through Bombhole Quorum, and that just ended up giving me enough of a gap that I needed to then start slowly pulling away from him.
Yeah, it was a very well managed race in that respect. We do have to look forwards now because, of course, we have that finale in a week's time at Brands Hatch. How's the confidence coming into that particular event?
Yeah, confidence is definitely high after this week. I think I've got very lucky compared to a lot of the other drivers, but I think I had the pace to be up there anyway, never mind incidents. Adam hopefully will be back at the next race. So there'll be another quick driver on the grid to contend with. But yeah, I've got to fancy my chances for next week now.
Yeah, I mean, we all hope to have a little bit of fun next week, as we'll hopefully get the vast majority of drivers back on the grid just to give the series a bit of a send-off. But Oliver, great job today, and best of luck in a week's time.
Thank you very much.
All right, that was Oliver Ettridge there taking the double race win here today at Snetterton for the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Great Britain. But kind of alluded to it, Paul, we have our finale in just a week's time, and it's well, Brands Hatch will play host to it, of course. And it's going to be the Grand Prix layout rather than the Indy layout as well. So, but there's potential for some really good action there.
You know, in real life, you can't run the Grand Prix layout at this time of year because of noise constraints. Well, that's not a problem for us here in the sim, so we get to have fun around the full circuit, and it produces some really good racing, does the Grand Prix layout. It's a traditional championship finale for a lot of series now in the world of full metal racing, so definitely it's great to be going to Brands Hatch for that championship finale, and I can't wait just 1 week's time until we get to crown some champions.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, in terms of championships, it is, well, at least in the pro category, that's looking to try and steal it all up with the perfect season potentially coming in towards next week. That would be an absolutely massive achievement. Of course, things are a little bit more weird in the AM category. Potentially things a little bit closer amongst multiple drivers coming into that next week, but we'll keep an eye on things. We'll see if there's any penalties or some such that will affect things after this particular event, and then we'll head full steam ahead into Brands Hatch next week to try and decide our champions of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Great Britain. But from myself, I'm Connery Maddock. I've been joined by the wonderful Paul Smith for this particular broadcast. And, well, we'll see you next time, because that's when it all very much matters. We'll be crowning champions. We'll be giving out prizes in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Great Britain. We'll see you.